Happy Monday, everyone. Beautiful weather out. I shot a match this Sunday at SOAP. Was going to talk about a couple things. The end of the video, I'm going to break down one stage. Don't want to take too much time. It's going to be beautiful weather out. We got daylight savings, so I'm going to be able to do a lot more live fire, and I think that's what's going to happen for 2026. So SOAP is a match in Sac Valley Shooting Center, and it is the best match that they have there. Jimmy Ferris runs it. He's been running it for about, I don't know, maybe a year and a half. Could be wrong on that number. But he used to shoot Linden a lot. And, you know, Sac Valley has this old school flavor. That's great. It's great. But if you shoot somewhere like Richmond or Linden, it's like two different worlds, right? And I noticed some of the other matches at Sac Valley are starting to catch up, and it's because Jimmy's designing some stages there, and then Buendia every now and then throws in a stage design there. So some really good stages, level 2 stuff. So Sac Valley has really stepped it up in the last year, and I highly recommend you check it out. It's got the flavor of Linden, the flavor of Richmond as far as challenging. And it still has a little bit of old school flavor because some of the old school guys design a couple stages here and there, and they're still good stages. So we're going to talk about consistency and a couple other things, but that's the main thing that I want to talk about. So this weekend's match, I shot 2 days, and I'm only going to talk about one match because I don't want to blend the two ranges together. So I shot very consistent both days. Nothing crazy spectacular, but nothing very disappointing. It was a very consistent weekend. I placed second one day, third the other, and that's in carry optics, not overall. I wish it was overall, but it doesn't go that way all the time. So very consistent, some very solid stage planning, some solid execution, some makeups, couple makeups cost me some time, but all in all, it wasn't anything to write home about, but it wasn't anything to cry in my milk about. So cry over spilt milk. So, you know, being consistent is very important in this sport. It's important in any sport, and how you get there is just by training, you know, dry firing, live firing, practicing, all those things that you practice at home, whether you're dry fire, live firing, all those things you practice, entries, exits, accuracy mode, speed mode, transitions, blending. You take all that and you apply it to the match. And what we're probably going to talk about is stage planning when I break down the one stage. I had a student ask me about stage planning. He's like, Ernie, let me ask you a question. We haven't talked about this. How do you plan a stage? And if you look at my stage runs, about 90% of them are the same as everyone else's. And what you look for is you look, you know, where the start position is, where the targets are there any hard angles, like a finishing spot where it's going to be, you shoot in and then it takes you to the left, but then you got a target all the way on the other side, 180, with a huge transition. That's usually a good place to end the stage versus trying to exit out of there, especially if it's up front and you got to retreat. Things like that. The start stick. You're starting on a start stick. It's like, are there any targets that you can see that will stop your flow after you go to one quarter and you get to the other side and you start moving forward? Will you have to turn your body a complete 180 and stop the flow to get it? Or is it easier just to shoot it off the get-go and then go to the corner? Things like that. You know, I usually walk it. We're going to talk about a start stick in the middle of the stage. That's what we're going to talk about. So usually, if it's that, or if it's a start position on the rear fault line in the center, I walk it both ways and I see which way flows better. And I see if there's like a hard angle on the right or the left side, because if that's the case, I'm usually going to try and finish there. Again, it's a hard position to exit out of, and it's probably easier just to finish. So I'll look at the start stick. Is there a target I need to take off the get-go? I'll get to the corner, shoot what I can see there, start moving left or forward depending on the stage design, and see what I can see and see how much blending there is. If there's targets I can see from multiple positions. And then I'll run it the opposite way. I'll look the opposite way, and it's like, are there any targets that I can see from the start stick that's going to stop my flow once I start going to either corner? And it's like, I'll go down the left, and then I'll see how that flows, and then I'll make sure that I'm not double crossing any pass, right? The name of the game is to do as little steps as possible and shoot all the targets as quick as you can, as well as getting good points on it, right? So you want to make sure you're not double tracking. If possible, you want to make sure that you're not running a long distance without shooting your gun, because you're not making points if you're running with the gun, right? So there's things like that you have to look at. And so we had like an hour and a half conversation, and I was thinking about, well, how do I stage plan? And every now and then I'll run a stage plan, and then I'll look at some other stage plans. It's like, it was competitive, but the way I ran it wasn't the best because I didn't see a couple things. And this is why it's important sometimes to get on a good squad, because if you have really good talent on your squad, you can bounce ideas off of. You can talk about a certain position, and there may be certain things that certain shooters will like to do, but I myself might not like to do, because turning one way and shooting while I'm not trying to cross my feet will actually hurt my lower back versus going the other way. So I actually will cater around my strengths and my weaknesses, whether they're physical or my shooting skills. So there's a lot of things to consider, but stage planning, there's usually one or two optimal ways. There's many ways to run a stage, but there's usually one or two ways for the optimal stage plan. And I usually get it about 90% of the time. 10% of the time I look back, it's like, oh, why did I run it like that? It cost me an extra 4 seconds just because I thought it was a good plan. And sometimes you think you have a good plan, and then you watch the other videos later, it's like, oh man, my plan wasn't that good, right? So soap was the match. We're gonna talk about that at the end. We're gonna break down one stage. I think I know which stage I'm gonna break down. And when you're training at home, your live fire, you got to keep it real, man. So if you are, one of the things I do, I'm gonna switch gears here. One of the things that I do is I post all my stage runs. I post the train wrecks, I post the FTSAs, I post everything, because that's keeping it real. And most shooters do that. I hardly see any shooters that post the best of the best, because then when you see them at the match, it's like, man, it's like, this dude was killing it. What's going on, right? So keeping it real keeps you humble, keep things in perspective, and be honest with yourself. It's like when you're doing those 0.15 splits, are you actually hitting the fucking target, right? Are you actually hitting the target? And especially this is going to be to newer shooters. You got to keep it real. It's like, I think the last video was the first video I post my hits on it. A lot of sweeping, a couple over the top. I even posted me miking on the steel, me driving into the no shoot, me like focusing on the last 100 rounds and trying to get some good hits, and posting those. And even when I go to the indoor range, I'll try to post those to make sure I'm not fronting. So keep it real with your training, keep things in perspective, and there's a lot of highs and lows in all sports. There's very few people that can be on top all the time. The average shooter or the above average shooter, which I am, consistency is like, sometimes I'm 95%, sometimes I'm 85%. Every now and then I'm 70%, and this is just in carry optics. This isn't overall. And, so I'm consistent in, 7th, 8th, whatever. And I'm trying to get up a couple more percentage every week, every month, right? So, you got to have a baseline and figure out what your baseline is. And it's easy. You just look at your batches, and we all have bad days. We all have bad days. So just keep that in perspective, and I'm going to cut this short. I hope everyone has a great week. I think I'm going to live fire probably 2 or 3 times this week because the weather's so great right now. And, in the summer up where I live, it gets to be like 110, and it's like 70 right now. So I hope everyone has a great week. Continue to train, and I'll probably catch up with you guys midweek.
Are you ready? Stand by.
Bunch of Mickey Mouse bullshit.
Are you ready? Stand by. If finish, unload, and show clear. If clear, hammer down and holster. Range is clear. Hey.
All right, so this is a breakdown at SOAP. I'm going to run the full video at the very beginning and then do the breakdown. So this is Bay Force Gray Skull at SOAP. The division is Carry Optics. This was third, Carry Optics 8th overall. The winner of this stage did it in 24.4 seconds at a hit factor of 5.8 with 24 alphas, 7 Charlies, 1 Delta. I did it in 26.76 seconds with 23 alpha, 9 Charlie. I had a makeup on the swinger, so I put 3 alphas on the swinger. And we'll talk about that when we get there. And then near the left side, the second to last position, third to last position, I put one. I put one in the hardcover, so that was another 0.25. And then for the very last position, I was not in the corner far enough, so I had to sharpshoot around a barrel. That probably cost me another 0.3. So in all, I probably had 1 second in makeups, which isn't too bad, but it's, again, room for improvement. So let's get into this. Let's take a look at this. So we'll start off with half speed. So the first thing I notice is the barrel. The barrel is blocking my view, and there's a no shoot on the other side. And in this situation, what you should probably do, I'm late to get my gun up, right? So my gun should be up before I get to this spot right here, and it should be pointing that way. My gun comes up as I get into the position. And one of the things that you can actually do when you have a vision barrier like a barrel and you can't see through the wall is pick a spot on the wall. And I got this from Trent Miller, one of his videos. Pick a spot on the wall and have your gun right about there when you break your vision. I could have saved some time there, or maybe the angle I came in shouldn't have been so direct. Maybe if I would have came to the outside more and then came in, I could see more. But that's the first thing I notice. And then when we go to the head cam, you'll notice on the steel, I don't transition right off of it. I hesitate for a second. Again, this is my first stage of the day. I'm feeling pretty good, but I'm late to get my gun up for the no shoot. I go to the steel. I hesitate to transition immediately off to the skunk. So let's take a look at this. And this is half speed. Good maneuvering around the corner. On the steel, instead of squeezing 2 off, I get 1 and then I squeeze a double. I break my grip here. I'm looking ahead. I try to roll through this, and you can see I don't come stationary, but I slow down enough to get 2 shots off, and I think it was 2 alpha. I'm trying to roll through positions like this versus coming to the standstill. Someone I'm going to be working with soon for training told me that's one of my things is I stop in a lot of positions where I could probably roll right through it. So I've already started to work on that when I can identify there's a spot. And when I was walking the stage, in my mind, it's like, don't stop here, Ernie. Slow down enough to shoot what you can see, get good hits on it. And, if you watch it full speed, it looks like I stopped, but I actually, there's some movement while I'm rolling through it. So let's watch this. Guns up. Paper. I get the steel 1 for 1. Okay, so we're gonna stop here. My reload's pretty good. This target here, I put one in the hardcover. No, that's not the target. There's a slasher, I think, behind that I put it in the hardcover, but we'll see that in the head cover. Oh, there it is right there. So it's this one right here. I put one just like 2 inches into the hardcover, and I see it. I shot call it, I see it, I make it up, but there's 0.25. And I try not to go too deep in this last position here. Let's watch this. So I have to slow down there. Drag the gun, looking at the target. Now here, if you notice, I need to be over that way about 6 inches, because the last target I shoot, oh, it's not a barrel, it's tucked in by the wall, and it's right here. The wall right here is the vision barrier. It's at an angle. So the farther you can get over to the corner, the more you can see. And I have to split it slow, but you'll see in the head cam. I have to split it go slow because my gun's sideways and I'm leaned over one way shooting around the wall. So that's the far target in the back. So I'm shooting that far target in the back with the slower splits. I think I pick up 2 alphas on that. And then you can see here, because I'm not in position, I don't want to shift my feet. It's easier to move my hips versus taking another shuffle step. So I lean this way so I can get a better angle at the target. And I actually have to slow down to make sure I don't shoot the wall. Let me clear this out. And so when I walk this stage, we're at the 32 point mark. Well, we'll go back. But when I walked this stage, originally I went left, and it was just too choppy. The way I was running left to right and where the target presentations, I actually literally had to turn my body against the direction I was going. That's why I chose to run it this way. Some people chose to go to the port first and shoot all that, and then go into where I started, and then go to the far right, and then run all the way over to where I made that hardcover mic on the left side. And for me, that's just a lot of running. Jeremy ran it that way. He had a good run. I think he did it in 25 seconds. And but he was hustling, and he was shooting a lot quicker than I was. And I don't know if he had any makeup, so I'll have to go back and look at his video. But let's look at the head cam on this. So we'll keep this at half speed. Again, you got the vision barrier of the barrel blocking my view. The gun's late to come up. I'll try not to do any diagrams. So the gun comes up as I come around. Now I shoot the steel, watch the hesitation. There's probably like 1/10, 2/10 a delay there. I should be hitting that steel and transitioning straight off, but for some reason, I need to see it start falling versus calling that shot that it was a good hit on the popper. I think that's what's happened looking back in retrospective. It was good around getting around the wall. Alpha Charlie there. Alpha. And you can see I'm tracking. And I should have just squeezed 2 off at the swinger. If you watch my gun, I start to track it after the first shot. So I get 1 alpha. I should have shot both shots there, and I'm late. So I squeezed 2 at it. Looking ahead, I'm rolling through this position, not to complete stop. Guns up. Paper, steel, paper. I have a good reload here. I get my gun up. Second shot in the hardcover. Make up alpha. Now right here, you're going to see where I am not in the greatest position for the last shot. You can already see right here. You can already see right there. Right there, I've got. Let me get this line a little bit better. You can already see right there. that I only got half of that target, and that's my last target that I shoot, which is this one right here. So now I'm shooting around the wall, and I have to, instead of being able to split that fast. So all in all, it was a very solid run. Nothing to write home about. Got some good hits on it, some good movement. Couple makeups that cost me, and being out of position probably cost me a second. Probably still wouldn't have been a stage win, but it probably could have been second for carry optics, and it probably could have moved me up to like 5th overall. But I was happy with the run. It was a nice strong showing for the first stage of the day. I just shot the day before. I had gotten up at 4:30 both days. It's the normal time I get up, but it was a good showing, and I did a good job of shot calling. I just wish I would have transitioned off the steel in the first position a little quicker. I wish when I got to the swinger, I squeezed 2 instead of 1, and then deciding to track it. And then I wish I didn't have the makeup in the hard cover on the left side. And then the last position, I stepped a little short where I had to use my hips versus my feet. So that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Next week, we'll be shooting Richmond on Saturday because there's only one match. And I'm looking forward to that. And I hope you guys have a great week. I'll probably catch up with you guys mid this week. I'll be running some drills. I think I'm going to live fire out here up north like 2 days, and then I'll do the indoor range and maybe one day of dry fire. I'm definitely going to step up the live fire this summer. I already ordered another 4,000 rounds of black dot, so I'm gearing up. All right, we'll talk to you guys later.